Good morning, everyone. I will be reading our first press release. Choosing to succeed, it's time for education reform. Join us on the front steps of the City Capitol on June 4, 2013. We have exciting news to share. We will have parents, educators, and policy experts regarding educational choice legislation. We believe that all Texans should have a say-so in the quality of education that their children receive. Our organization was founded in June of 2008, and we are Texans for Parental Choice in Education. We seek to build a bipartisan, volunteer-led grassroots and grasstops team throughout Texas in order to pass and defend universal education choice legislation in order to meet the educational needs of all Texas families. Okay.
Hello, my name is Mackenzie Fitzgerald, and I am with the TANS, the Texas Association of Non-Public Schools. And I'm here to talk about private schools because I know that in the argument against school choice that has been a debate that private schools will not give the same, that private schools will not be able to teach our children in the same way that public schools, or that any amount of funds being given to private schools is under consideration. Well, part of the bill states that to any non-public school receiving the scholarship is required to be accredited. And by using accreditation creates equal or improved standards that equalizes it between public schools, because for the Texas Commissioner of Education to recognize accreditation of a non-public school, its operations, curriculum, staffing, and instruction must be sufficiently comparable to those of public schools. And they meet annually to evaluate changes to their standards and endorse the TEPSAC's accreditation criteria each year. Thank you.
My name is Diane Oxley. I'm the Director of Texas Public Policy. You've heard a little bit about choice and a little bit about accountability. Our bill today, SB 23, is about businesses being able to donate a portion of the amount they would use for franchise tax so that they can fund education scholarships that would give students a choice, that would allow the money to follow the students. Right now, our Texas public school system is dysfunctional. It's broken. We've been hearing education reform for 3 decades. It's going to be a huge project. We're trying to provide another option, another choice right now for these students that are lost in these unperforming schools that cannot move. There's 20% mobility for people that are trapped in a district where their zip code determines their education and even their literacy sometimes. So we're trying to provide an option right now. Business is booming and our children are failing. And what we would like to do is have the opportunity to tie those together, where small business owners and other business owners can tie that money directly to an opportunity for these children to be able to choose, to have that money follow them. We had a third-party report done that showed that over 56% of the money in the district budgets when they're provided is on one line item called instruction that has over 26 categories, from substitute teachers to school field trips. It's very hard to identify how much of this $8,400 that we hear in a budget per child is going to that child. And until we can rectify that, we would like to provide an opportunity for it to follow the child in an accountable format. And we hope you'll join with us today in that. Thank you. And we'll take questions now.
This is Diaz, Associated Press. This is directed to the woman representing private schools. How do you believe your institution will better serve a student transitioning from the public school?
Well, studies show that the academic performance of students within the private school is better, and not only that, but the parental satisfaction. In studies, we've seen that 55% of parents, given the opportunity, would prefer to send their child to a private school, and that's parents who have children within the public school system. And of parents within the private school system, they believe that private schools provide better education, a safer environment, and a better student-teacher relationship, because as they are able to have smaller student bodies, they're able to have smaller student-to-teacher ratio. And that means instead of teaching 30 to 35 students and trying to have an individual relationship with them in an hour, 30 students, one teacher, they have 11 students, and they're able to recognize each one of them and have that closer relationship and understand their individual needs so they can address them. And they also, financial aid, 68% of private schools have a system involved with financial aid, and the rest are involved in the community for private funding.
Selena Sanchez, Associated Press. According to the National Education Association, the state of Texas is annually spending $8,400 per child on their education. How do you feel that putting that money towards private schools will benefit that child?
I think that comes back to accountability. We can't see that money being spent on a child right now. We hear this number of $8,400. Maybe it's 50 cents on the dollar. It's very hard to see. We just don't have the line item detail that you would see in a private school, in a charter school. In almost every business in America, you have to show accountability. You have to substantiate where the money is being spent and are the results. Otherwise, you have no quality control. We like to see that opportunity, and with some of the other options to make up the difference, even in a more expensive school, the money would go directly to the child to help improve the quality.
Good morning, everyone. Antonia Okafor with MSNBC. I hear what you guys are saying. I just wanted to clarify, are you saying that this piece of legislation is the only alternative to improving public schools?
No, we recognize that, as she mentioned, that the system is failing, but we haven't really seen any legislation that has come up with a good way to improve this right now. And we recognize that this may not be a long-term solution, but we have to start somewhere. And until someone comes up with something better, we see this as a good way to start improving the lives of families and students, because some people wonder if we do this legislation, it may be causing other issues. But if we see it as saving just one child, then we have been a success. Because if you save one child and you give them that quality education that they need, you are now going to be not only influencing them, but future generations from that one child. So if we can save one more, then we feel we are successful.
Michelle Mendez from New York Times. I understood the financial aid and the other possible funds given to a student, but what happens when that still does not equal the amount that is due and they need to pay? What happens then?
Well, the average tuition of all private schools in the state of Texas is $8,500. So if the amount of tuition that they're receiving is $7,000 or $8,000, then that's almost already there. And then financial aid usually covers at least half. And so between those two, it's very unlikely that they wouldn't be able to meet the need necessary for tuition. But if not, then that's for the parent. That's for
Or organizations like myself. Our organization is very much tied to this bill, and other organizations like myself, where we are working very closely with the families. And when there's a situation like that we see that there's a difference in the amount owed and the amount that they're receiving from the Opportunity Scholarship, then organizations like myself have created a fund as well. We do fundraisers within the communities so that we can make sure something like that doesn't happen, because we realize that there are some parents working 2 or 3 jobs just to pay the rent, just to pay their meals. And to have to come up with, say, oh, it's only $1,000, that's the difference between them maybe making their rent or not. And we recognize that may be something that is lacking. And so organizations like myself have partnered with them to make sure stuff like that doesn't happen.
Antonia Okafor with MSNBC again. The Director of Public Policy stated that there's a 20% mobility average within the communities that you're trying to work with. How is this, regarding with that statistic, how is this going to affect rural areas where they do not have even the access because of that low mobility to private schools?
That's a great question, and that's the exact point that the 20% reflects. The people that have 20% mobility aren't the people we're talking about. We're talking about people that don't have access, that aren't able to move, that don't have the extra money. They're stuck in a district, they petition to move, they're not able to move. There's no other options, they're stuck there, there's nothing they can do. And we want those students to have this opportunity. We want to work together in a coalition. We want to address their needs, and we want to hope by doing this and opening other school options, that it will drive and improve the standards in the very schools that are failing the children right now.
And also, we have to understand that it is, there's a big emphasis on private schools, but this option opens them up to homeschooling, to charter schools, and to other public schools, so that they're able to use the funds for transportation to another school even close by that may not be a private school, but has a better success rate than the school that they are stuck in.
Good morning, members of the press and public. Thank you for your attendance today to discuss a very important topic. We have called this press conference to deliver a message that is crucial to discuss. Every child deserves a chance. Every child deserves a chance. Today we will be presenting different perspectives to say why we oppose Senate Bill 23. We'll be presenting to you the testimony of a single mother, an advocacy organization, and an education administrator. They will share their experiences that reveal the potential problems caused by private school vouchers. The key things we'll be talking about this morning include that Senate Bill 23 is not a solution to the problem, but only a Band-Aid that diverts attention from the real problem of our public school system. The education system under the proposed private school voucher program will not provide equal access to everyone. And thirdly, Senate Bill 23 will create more inequities within the education system. Pretend that was a different person because I'm UBR first. Okay. Good morning, members of the press and public. I'm Jessica D'Souza from the Coalition for Public Schools. We're a group of religious, child advocacy, and education organizations that are opposed to private school vouchers. I'm glad for the opportunity to discuss with you this bill and legislation that is up for proposal, because I think we can all agree that education is important to our society. We can all acknowledge and agree upon the need for a better system for our children, for every single one of our children. Today I'd like to talk to you about three things: our constitutional commitment to every single child within the public school system, the accessibility and special needs of every child that need to be met equally, and the accountability that we owe to all of our children. I'd like to read to you part of the Texas Constitution. Article 7 says that our government is supposed to support and maintain a system of free public schools for the purpose of a general diffusion of knowledge, being essential to the preservation of the liberties and rights of the people. It's also stated that we should have an efficient public school system. This is written in our Constitution. It is a guarantee to every single one of our citizens. What I basically mean to say is that we cannot divert attention from our duties as a society to every single child. For example, one special case we need to look at is the needs of special children. Particularly with this bill, it would provide 80% of the average cost for educating a child in the public school system. We all know that there are special needs students who often require full-time attention and assistance. These children will not have the same opportunity to be covered in private schools with only that amount of money. And lastly, the accountability of the system fails. In private schools, we as citizens, the exact people who are here asking questions, members of the press and public who are concerned about our education system, do not have the same opportunity to have their voices heard in how those private schools function and how that money is being used for the education of our children. Previous studies have shown in Cleveland, Florida, Indiana, Milwaukee, DC, you name it, this has been an ongoing discussion that children do not receive significant benefits being in the private schools versus the public schools. Long-term results do not show any significant gain. Therefore, we cannot take this Band-Aid solution and divert attention from the real problem of our public school systems.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Taylor. I'm with the Texas School Board Association. I'm the director of this association. I have a PhD in education from TCU in Fort Worth, and I also have a social work master's from Baylor. And I'm here to talk to you today about a group that I think deserves mentioning, and that's the rural community. Of course, if I live in Dallas, Fort Worth, Arlington, you name it, any big city is going to have access to a private school. What about these rural communities? The closest grocery store is at least an hour away, and you're telling me I should give $7,000 to a student in a public school that is performing below standards. That means no computers, no textbooks, teachers that do not care, and barely with credentials. They may only have an associate's degree. And you're telling me I should give $7,000 to a student and say, go to private school 2 hours away. Reality is, why not give each student that $7,000? Buy a student a computer. Give them textbooks that aren't falling apart. Give them the confidence they need to succeed in college. University of Texas, Dr. Dennis Poole, he did a study on rural communities. He concluded only 9% of people in rural communities will graduate college. 11% will go to college. In metropolitan areas, college isn't an option. It's expected of us. But in rural communities, the tradition is you grow up on the family farm, maybe you go to high school, maybe you don't. And you spend a life working at the local Dairy Queen or the local Subway. The pattern needs to end now. If we can get these children educated, get them to have confidence in themselves, and get them to realize, look, this isn't my life. I can be a doctor, a lawyer, a functioning member of society. If we can increase the education of these children, we can increase the workforce. We can start promoting economic stability. There's a huge community out there that I think, myself sometimes, I don't think about. Because 600 miles away, how does that affect me? But these people need a voice. And we need to understand private schools is not the answer. Why not fix the system? Stop worrying about the future and what possibly could happen. Why not fix what we have right now? These children need our help. They need our voice. These teachers have no confidence in them. They tell them, might as well drop out now. Confidence starts at the public school system. As an intern at Baylor, as a social work intern, I got to spend time with underprivileged children. Parents didn't go to college, of course, barely graduated from high school, drug addiction, homelessness. These little kids are 4 and 5 years old, and their life stories are already planned out for them because they don't have a future, and they know they don't, because their public school system is failing them. Why not give each student $7,000, $8,500, whatever it is these vouchers are willing to give, and benefit every student individually? Get them a computer, get them a book, give them the confidence they need to understand, look, I am not like this, I am better than this, and I'm going to make a future of myself.
Buenos días. No les voy a tomar mucho de su tiempo.
I am the translator. This is Jackie. She's going to tell her testimony, so she's going to stop every couple of sentences so I can translate. So she just said her name is Jackie, and she's not here to take a lot of her time. She's just here to tell you her story.
Mi nombre es Jackie Espinosa Nieto y soy mamá de mi hija María Fernanda, 7, Ángel, 13 y mi mayor José tiene 16.
She has 3 children, Ángel, Jose, and Enrique. One of them is 7, 3, and 5.
Soy mamá soltera. Mi esposo se murió en una caída en su trabajo de albañil.
I am a single mother, and my husband died in a construction site.
Desde el día que se murió mi esposo, nuestras vidas han sido muy difíciles.
And although I am a U.S. citizen, the day my husband died, my lives became very, very difficult.
Yo dependía de mi esposo para traducir en inglés para nosotros.
I depended on my husband to translate everything for us.
Ahora estoy con 3 trabajos y a mis hijos les faltan los 2 papás.
Now I am working 3 jobs, and now my children are missing 2 parents. One is dead and one is working. It's okay. Put it together.
No tengo tiempo para dar a mis hijos la atención que se merecen, para yo misma aprender inglés, para ayudar a mis hijos con sus tareas y menos para ver cuáles escuelas en los distritos son los mejores para mis hijos.
I don't have time anymore. I want.
That was real cute, y'all.
Sorry, just speak really fast. I'm trying to learn English. I don't have time to go and research all the schools to see which ones are performing well and which ones are not, because I'm working 3 jobs. And although I would like to learn English, I don't, logistically speaking, it's just not possible.
Yo tengo fe que los maestros, administradores y los legisladores están haciendo todo posible para servir a todos los niños de Texas que puedan tener éxito.
I have faith in our educational system. Because I work 3 jobs, I have faith that our teachers and our legislators are doing everything that they can so that every child, not just certain children, are getting the best education possible.
Pienso que es injusto que solo queramos educar estudiantes de altos recursos.
I think it is unfair that we only want to educate those students that have the knowledge to move across districts.
Yo pienso que el Estado tiene que ayudar a todos los niños a cumplir su potencial.
It is my belief that every USA citizen has the right for equal education and equal access.
La idea de los vouchers es algo nuevo para mí.
The idea of these vouchers is a new idea to her.
No le entiendo, pero lo que sí entiendo es que mis hijos no están recibiendo la educación adecuada para sobrevivir en este país.
It is difficult to understand this idea. However, what she does understand is that every child in their own public school deserves the same opportunity.
Les suplico que les den a mis hijos la misma oportunidad de alcanzar el sueño americano.
I beg you to help me and my family reach the American dream.
Every child deserves a chance.
Thank you.
Can you rephrase your question?
Is not having a choice, isn't that more unconstitutional? We live in the land of the free, but we don't have a choice. Yes or no?
You
Yes
did
or
not
no?
use the double negative. You're
Yes or
telling
no?
me.
Yes or
You
no?
just rephrase without the double negative. I didn't follow it. Let me on my serious case.
We live in the land of the free.
Following.
Not having the freedom to make our own decisions, isn't that unconstitutional? Yes or no?
No, not at the expense of other people.
How is this subjugating other people? Because this bill is not saying that you have to do this, it is an option to do it.
I should have said at the expense of other people. The thing is, it's not up to chance. Every child deserves a chance. Giving our arbitrary choice is leaving our education system up to chance. We can't do that for a child.
Hi, I'm Selena Sanchez from the Associated Press. I just have a question for all of you in general. If opportunity scholarships aren't the answer to improve failing districts, then what is the solution?
That's a great question. Oh, sorry, Mama.
Okay, increasing public schools. Like I stated to you guys, the public schools in rural areas don't even have the basic necessities that we may take for granted. They don't even have enough desks for all the students. I witnessed plenty of students without textbooks, without computers, obviously, without any connection to really what's going on. They have no idea current events. They don't know what's going on. And the thing is, private school, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. It sounds like a great education. But how do you expect a rural student to even pass in a private school if they don't even know basic English, basic math, because they just don't have the resources to do so?
So, hello? Hello. Okay, there. Okay, so yes or no answer. Is transparency and accountability the problem, or is failing school districts the problem?
Failing school districts. We need to fix what we have now and get things up to standards.
But we need transparency and accountability in those schools. Yes or no?
Yes.
Do you agree?
We need accountability, of course.
And we have it, of course.
How do you have it?
For the press only, thank you very much.
Well, I'm sorry, I thought you were.
I'm the mama.
She didn't speak to be translated.
Go ahead.
Good morning.
Just drop it on the chair. It'll work after that.
All right. Good morning, Michelle Mendez from New York Times. Could you walk me through the process of what happens to the kids in the public school systems that are, in a way, left behind?
Sure, I'll speak to that a little bit. The reality of the situation is that every child who receives that voucher takes with them money that should go to the public school system. It affects all the children who are in that school because it reduces the amount of resources that are available to those children. If anyone else would like to touch on it.
In rural areas, they don't have enough money for public transportation, so most of these students walk to class. So wake up at 7 a.m., walk to your school, and you pretty much just sit through a grueling hour of knowing you don't have the correct textbooks, there's no PowerPoint projectors, there's no TVs. Pretty much you can only learn whatever your teacher knows or whatever she feels like you want to learn, since there is a lack of confidence. If I was a teacher, why would I spend my time helping them? There's no college preparatory classes, because why would me as a teacher, if I knew my students didn't have a future, why would I spend my extra time staying after school to help them? You pretty much are in a prison. You know there's no future for yourself. You know you're not going anywhere because no one cares, no one wants to help. I mean, we take for granted metropolitan public schools because we do have every advantage in the world. College is not an option for us. It wasn't for me. People tell me congratulations for graduating. That was what was expected of me. People in the rural areas, if they graduate high school, they might be the first generation to do so.
The mama would like to say something.
Pienso que si mandan a los estudiantes a otra escuela, van a cerrar las escuelas donde yo vivo y es donde viven los niños más pobres.
So her translation is that, to your question is, if we allow students that are left behind to continue to be in those schools, because they're low performing schools, they're more likely to close down, and then those students will then have to move to other schools, and those schools will then become overpopulated, and we already know that we have a problem with teacher to student ratio, so that just increases that problem.
Antonio Okafor with MSNBC. You earlier said that that you guys are going to cover the inequities that will be expounded. Will you expound on that comment that there's going to be inequities brought about by this legislation if we pass it?
Sure. Education has often been called the great equalizer, and by creating these distinctions and divisions rather than supporting every child having the same chance, and that should be in their public school, because that is guaranteed to them a good public free so supported by taxpayer education, taxpayer dollars. That education should be the same quality. When you say that you're sending them to the private schools because that's a better education, that is an inequality right there, saying that those children will get a better education, and the results will play out when the other schools, by definition of why this bill might work and why it's being proposed, don't have the same opportunities.
And think about it, in the rural areas, obviously you're going to have lower income households. These houses range anywhere from a mobile home of $10,000 to a, what they would call, a larger house of $45,000. Property taxes on that are obviously going to be extremely lower. On my house, that's $450,000. Therefore, there's lower money, or there's less money going to these schools. And if a business is willing to give a tax, or willing to take a tax break, and the government's willing to reimburse, a student at $7,000, $8,500 for private school, then that means they can reimburse my child in a rural public school. Because I don't even have the funds to begin with to know, hey, my student's getting a great education because I'm paying for it in my tax dollars. My tax dollars don't even cover a quarter of a teacher's salary because they're just so low in those areas.
I'd like to make another connection, because you did bring up the point from our previous testimony that when we talked about accessibility, that is part of the inequalities. When you have students, it's important to meet them at their needs and find out what we can do to provide that quality education for children. That might include special needs children or English as a second language, and we know that these private schools are not as likely to offer and be able to guarantee meeting those kids where they're at. It's guaranteed in the public school system that every child will have that assistance that they need through things such as the IDEA Act, which was passed in 1990, but that's not guaranteed in a private school.
Michelle again from New York Times. Would you guys say that there's some kind of discrimination involved? If so, why?
Well, how about the rural areas? That's discrimination right there. You're telling me that just because I live in Big Spring or Odessa or Clarendon, where I went to college, I don't matter? because I'm not a part of DFW, Arlington, Irving, wherever, what have you. You're telling me I don't matter? Majority of the people that live in rural communities are white. So, you know, people may say, well, this is only affecting, you know, the African Americans or the Hispanics. No. 95% of people that live in these rural communities are poor whites. So yeah, of course it's discrimination. Because if, as the white race is, people say the superior, or people say, you know, well, they let the minorities take the fall for everything. No, we're discriminating against anyone. If you don't have money, or if you're not in an ideal location, of course, it's discrimination right there. Yes.
Deanna Diaz again. It was mentioned that it's obviously there are apparent discrepancies within the public school system, and that is a result of whatever that's a result of. But what my point is that this has not been an issue. This isn't a recent issue. This has been an issue in the state of Texas for many years. So you knew that these public schools had these problems, and whatever attempts were made to eradicate obviously have not worked. So I am interested to know why you are so opposed to this as a pilot program, because yes, there are studies that say this has not worked in other states, but this is the great state of Texas, one and indivisible. And what I'm saying is, you need to figure out, why are you opposed to this when all we're trying to do is figure out if this is going to work for the state in the first place?
Okay, well, to answer your question, yes, education has been on everyone's minds for, 60 years now? But if you guys have noticed, you can't get a job now with at least, obviously, a high school education. That's not enough anymore. That's the thing. Education hasn't been as important as it has been in the past decade, because there were many entry-level jobs that people could graduate high school and then find a job, you know, a construction company, at a bakery, whatever you would want to do. There was always entry-level positions. Nowadays, college is not an option. In order to find a good paying job that, you know, has sustainability, you can take care of a family, you can live a comfortable life, you do have to have a college education. And we're just now realizing that, you know, colleges do want education. And from some time, public schools didn't really seem like, you know, well, some are performing lower, you know, well, you know, that works for them. But now that we are realizing, look, I have to have at least some college. There are so many jobs now that the lowest they'll take is some college. It's no more, I just have a high school high school diploma. And so we are realizing now, we're feeling how hard it is now to find a job if you don't have a full-on educational background, because no one wants to hire you if you don't have something to bring to the table.
If I may, ma'am, you didn't answer my question, and
I think I
and you did not state why you were opposed to this being a pilot program to figure out if this works for the state of Texas. Because in this pilot trial run, I'm still maying, so I need to finish my statement. And what I'm saying is, if this is just a pilot run, then perhaps it can be shown that these people will have greater success to move on to college. So why are you opposed to this being a pilot trial run program?
Okay, you know, I think one of my colleagues would be better fitted to answer your question.
Sure, I had actually had a chance to see both sides of this and what you guys are saying. I think a couple things to get at your first question, and then maybe we can do this follow-up as well. It is never too late to work on education. In fact, the longer we wait, we have more motivation to fix those problems. The pressure and the accountability of the public grows. But that does not mean we can stray from our constitutional duties. If we have guaranteed to every child the benefit of a quality education system, it is still wrong to divert attention from every child and the guarantees they have under this Constitution in the great state of Texas, in our great nation.